Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hope everyone had a good weekend. This is a special edition of our live stream here. We are here to talk about Vibe, the Vitruvio income building engine. So I presented that last week and committed to getting feedback from the community and revising things based upon that. So I'm very pleased to tell you that's exactly what's happened. Got a ton of feedback, and it's been a very long weekend. Let me tell you that. Got a ton of feedback, got spreadsheets, got comments, got everything. And I'm sorry I couldn't acknowledge everybody individually, but believe me, I have been reading and processing all your input. I've also been working with some of the leaders in the community and some of the major stakeholders in the community to get their input. And I'm very pleased today that I'll be able to present to you version 2 of Vibe, which has your input. So I think after this, we're going to do probably one more revision based on final input from folks based upon this, and that'll be it. In addition, one of the top requests is a calculator. So today I'm going to also share with you the work in progress worksheet that we have. It'll eventually put it as a calculator in scope. We expect it to be ready later today. It's not ready yet, but I want to show you what we are working on. So that's what also on the agenda. And finally, I want to bring someone on here today who's a member of a community for a long time and a major stakeholder. And I want to talk to him about his interpretation and opinions about Vibe, and also an official role he's going to start playing in the community. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and bring our guest here on today first. So I'm going to introduce him. Most of you already know him, but I want to welcome Mike Purdy. Hello, Mike. How are you? You're muted.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Very good.
Yeah.
Excited.
It's great to chat with you. So Mike has agreed to officially play a role that he's already playing unofficially, and that is to be the community liaison. So act as sort of the main conduit of information about all things important. Mike, I want to talk to you about that specifically, but everyone's here for Vibe. We're going to talk about that first, and then at the end of our session, we'll talk about that. But also, as we go through Vibe, I want to sort of get your input a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Great. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and let's get right down to business. And let's talk about Vibe Vitruvio Income Building Engine version 2. What I've done is I have created a new deck, but what I have done is, and you'll see in a second, I've preserved the old content and highlighted the new content so you can see exactly what's different. And I'll also share the URL for this so that you will have access to it. All right, let's get going through it. I'm going to skip the parts that have not changed at all because they're all, well, they have not changed. But let's go to the most relevant parts. And I'll tell you, in dissecting all sort of the comments and the feedback, the primary things were around allocations for boosters, allocations for validators, Vitro, Dex, sort of a benefit that was promised to the original sort of, it was called UXI at the time, buyers in. So we've fixed all of those things. So let's quickly go through and get to that part that's changed, and let's get going. So like I said, I'm going to skip the parts that haven't changed and just get right to the part that's been modified. So we're still going here, still going. All right, none of this has changed. All right, now we are starting to get to the point that's changed. All right, so first and foremost, let's start with the stakeholders. In order to balance things and reach some of the consensus items that we need to, what we've done is, if you see here, strike through on 3 particular items, and I'll talk about those as we go through them. But basically, what we've done is allocated benefits to them in different ways outside of the Vibe model, right? So that's collectors partners, V3, which is very important, very valuable Vitruvians, the new program, and Vitro holders. And we'll talk about how we're addressing them in different ways. So obviously, they were here as stakeholders because they're important, and we want to make sure that they stay and the focus stays on them, but in a different way. All right. So now the treasury remains unchanged. Basically, all unallocated coins, they stay with the treasury, and as they're allocated out, they go out. So the treasury, that's the role of the treasury. Now, number two is validators. So one of the models that the validators proposed is that you have previously I had only a fixed pool that was intended for revenue distribution to performant nodes. And what's changed here is that we have that fixed pool, but we also have an initial airdrop to the pro rata node holders. Excuse my typo there. I said pro rate instead of pro rata. So there'll be 10,000 vibe that will be distributed pro rata among all the node holders. So we still have the pool. The pool exists to make sure that it isn't allocated out to nodes. That it sits as a pool so that on a monthly basis, the performant nodes can be determined and the share for each of those can be calculated. And that we believe is going to vary up and down. And we are currently looking at a 95% plus uptime in order to be eligible for that. I think some people would like it to be lower, but that it doesn't make a robust blockchain. So we don't want to kind of go with a lower amount. All right. So that is the first change. And again, as I preface this, I want you to keep that in mind. This is version 2. I think we are going to go through one more iteration of this, get feedback, and then that will be the final one. All right. So again, there's still room for change if anyone thinks so, but it needs to be rational changes and fact-based changes. All right. The next thing is creators. So we've adjusted the amounts here, and you can see that how I have put a strike through on the previous number. I've indicated a new number in green, and so here we have a reduction in the creator tokens. We have 6 Vibe tokens each for the Dreamer Core NFT holders, the Artpacks artists, and the Genesis artists. And then for the incoming creators, we're going to do 3 Vibe tokens each. We've also reduced the allocation for future Dreamers to 40,000 Vibe tokens. So that's a net reduction of 30,000 Vibe tokens. All right, moving on to the next one, collectors and partners. So as a group, as an allocation of 20,000 Vibe tokens previously, that is gone now. And what we'll do is we'll create incentive programs with straight up Vitru grants and not have revenue share for collectors and partners, which I think is fair because these are going to be folks coming on in the future. And I think one of the shifts in thinking and approach for Vibe is those who provided early support and have been in the community for a long time. So I think that fits very well with this narrative here. So collectors and partners will be incentivized with Vitru grants in the future. The next thing is the team. Again, sticking with the narrative of current versus future. So this was already split as 10K, 10K. And so what we've done is remove the 10K for the future team members. We'll incentivize them with Vitru grants, and the current team members will be incentivized with 10K Vibe tokens. So again, that's 10K back into the fold. All right. Next up is booster NFTs, which is, I think, the part that most people are concerned about, etc. So we've changed the numbers here. So previously, we have 12 Vibe tokens, and we've increased that to 14 Vibe tokens per booster. And the super booster is a straight up a multiplier of 167 to that. So that's 2,338 up from 2004. So that increases the booster allocation. And now you will see in the worksheet that we are going to release later today that the math on this holds up. So that's very important for everybody involved, that there was a prior model where of the 2% rev share of NFT sales, the booster holders were eligible for 30% of that. And so we want to make sure that there's parity on these numbers. And so you will see that in the worksheet that there is absolute parity on that. All right, moving on to the next group, which is the Vortex NFTs. This has people a bit ambivalent about it. Some people feel like it should be a constant, given that it's random, but feel pretty strongly that this models what exists very um, popularly in sort of the crypto ecosystem, where when you draw a blind mint or something, you don't know what the rarity is, and that's similar to that. And higher rarities have more value. So we're gonna keep the 1 2 3 4 vibe for rarity on Vortex NFTs. Next up is the V3 program. And as I said earlier, this is a very valuable Vitruvians, a new program we are introducing. Again, the word new there. And so we are going to incentivize with Vitru grants and remove the vibe, the 10,000 vibe that was allocated for this program. So all these vibes that are being removed are being reallocated, and you'll see how that is shortly when you look at the table with the math on it. All right, the next thing is Vitru holders. So previously we had a model where it was opt-in. It's still opt-in. It's always opt-in, always your choice, where you essentially burned your Vitru in order to get a vibe. Going to change that now to a staking model. So Vitru holders can stake for 2 or 5 years to get immediate vibe. The stake amount and vibe allocation is to be determined. It will be available by the end of the day, because it largely depends upon the calculator model that we are developing. That's the only reason it's not there yet. But we just want to validate it and make sure that it's accurate before we announce that out. But there is going to be a staking model, and it will basically allow you to get your vibe immediately, and your Vitru will be staked. And at the end of your 2 or 5 year period, whatever you've chosen, you get your Vitru back. So the net cost to you is really the difference between whether you sell your Vitru ahead of time or not. You can't if it's stake, obviously, but you're not burning any Vitru in this model, which is, I think, a very excellent kind of model for those of you who want to have recurring income and want to hold on to your Vitru for a longer time. Last but not the least is the Vitru original holders. So they were originally eligible for 0.05% of the DEX fees. Well, it turns out that the DEX fees are all essentially paid out in tokens, right? Whatever the pair is that is being traded, the DEX gives the fees, allocates the fees of that. So we are bringing that back. We determined that it is not feasible to bring that into Vibe actually, which is good, because this raised that concern, and we went and looked at it. So DEX fees are off the table for Vibe, and they are the original intent of Vitro holders, meaning the original UXI buyers, will still be eligible for the DEX fees. And in addition, there was one more benefit promised to them, and that will also be kept, which is on the DEX. We're going to launch sort of a launch pad, if you will, for new coins, etc. And they would be eligible for a portion of the coin allocation from that. So that also is going to be, that's a future benefit. We're not going to take that away. So essentially, that is what the Vitro coins are for. They are a DEX token, and they'll remain focused on the DEX and outside of the Vibe ecosystem. And I think this is a very fair kind of way to deal with it, because Vitro was always intended to be DEX centric. It is the token of the DEX. It is not the token of the blockchain. All right, now let's look at the allocations. So in making this new stake offer, we've also increased the pool available. So from 300K, it goes up to 350K Vibe tokens that will be available for stakers, etc. Again, this starts off in the treasury and is issued, allocated as people choose to use it. If it's not used, it stays with the treasury. A lot of people who question like the role of the treasury, it's actually pretty straightforward. In order to run any business, you need capital, and with Vitruvio, you need developers, you need marketers, you need designers, you need all kinds of people in order to keep the apps that we have built running, and in order to make this revenue share actually work. Where is the revenue share going to come from if you don't have apps and services that are provided? So the treasury funds are needed because that's how you pay the bills and you pay people's salary. No serious professionals are available to work full time on a volunteer basis. Everyone has bills to pay, and so you need that. All right. So now let's look at the table. So as I mentioned, I have put a side-by-side comparison to you so you can see everything exactly. And because we have essentially pulled back on some of these categories, you'll see them as gray, and those tokens are then distributed across some of the other areas. So the treasury has a slight increase, very, very slight, a point and a half or a point 1.3. The validators have the increase of 10,000 Vibe tokens, bringing that as a group to 11%. So 10,000 of that is intended for airdrop and pro rata to all the nodes, and then 100,000 of that is intended to be the rev share pool that is distributed monthly to the validators that are performant. The creators has been decreased by 30,000. So you can see that's basically by reducing the allocation and also reducing, or rather eliminating the pool for future. Collectors partners is gone. The team allocation has been halved, so it becomes 1%. The booster allocation has increased in line with the additional 2 Vibe tokens per booster. And as I said, we will demonstrate through the model that this brings parity to the boosters with the prior model, 100% parity. Also, the next row here is the Vortex NFTs. So that hasn't changed. So that was 46,250. That has remained unchanged. But here we have a new row. So as you know, Vibe tokens are cut off at 25,000. So one of the things that we want to do is make sure that as we move the Warpcast, not move, but add the Warpcast minting onto, the Vibe, the Vortex minting onto Warpcast. Sorry. We want to continue to incentivize folks. And so what we're going to do there is add a randomness factor. So there are going to be 25,000 Vibe tokens allocated, where from the remaining 75,000 that are still to be minted, you have essentially a 1 in 3 chance of getting a random Vibe token. So that means that there is still opportunity to come into the Vibe system ecosystem, but it's random. You can't buy into it as you can right now with the 25K. Right now, when you buy or mint a token, you're guaranteed a Vibe. After 25K, you're not guaranteed it. It becomes a luck of the draw. So that's 25,000, 2.5%. V3 is gone. So that's grayed out. And finally, the Vitru, pure Vitru staking is up to 350,000. So Mike, as a can you first describe sort of your role as a stakeholder, and then give us your idea, your opinion. What is your reaction to some of these things?
So I wrote in Discord, I really like the idea of Vibe because I think the ecosystem is, because it's being launched in phases and you have rev share, it's gotten so complicated. You need a spreadsheet to kind of figure everything out. So any form of simplification is amazing. I think the idea of Vibe, simplifying it of total revenue, I think is awesome. I think it's just a matter of trying to find the right numbers, which you're trying to massage everything. You know, I'm a, obviously a Vitru holder. I was in at pre-sale with Seifu all the way up to now. So it's been obviously a long road, like many people in the community. A fairly large Vitru holder, a booster holder, Vortex holder, and I also hold a node. So a lot of these different pockets matter to me as an investor and supporter of the chain. But I'm all for simplifying it. And I like the idea of, when you start talking, okay, am I getting 2% of the 30%? Is that art sales? Is that volume? It just gets so confusing. And then even when you produce um, spreadsheets, it just gets very, very complicated. So I think simplifying the rev share component to this is awesome. And, you and I have talked at length about the different ratios. We've looked at what the community concerns were. I've talked to a lot of large holders in terms of what their expectations are, for the various sectors. And I think this is kind of in line. V2 is kind of in line with what people are expecting. Obviously, you can't make everybody happy, but I think this is actually really competitive. And then I think once the actual calculator that we're putting together will be released, I think we'll really be able to pencil out the numbers and see the math. It's hard to make it consistent across the board because, like with booster sales, you have other incentives. You have, the 178 VITRU that was released, the 100 VITRU that was given at purchase. And it's hard to factor all of that in, in addition to getting your vibe. So it's easy to forget some of these other incentives. So when you're comparing a $10 Vortex NFT and getting a vibe versus a booster, it's hard to reverse the math because it doesn't quite pencil out because you have these other benefits that aren't being factored in. So I think the calculator is going to help a lot, and I'm excited. I'm excited to actually see the numbers.
All right, thank you for that, Mike.
Yeah.
And I appreciate all the help and input you've been providing. It's been super, super, super helpful. All right, so we'll continue on the vibe track here for a little bit. I'll finish up the spreadsheet here, and I'll give you a preview of the calculator we are working on to show you the level of detail that's going into it, because we really want to make sure that everyone can make educated decisions about everything. And so there's been a lot of thought and a lot of work being put into that calculator. And like I said, expect to deliver it to you later today. But continuing on with this deck at the moment, let's see. This has not changed. This has not changed. But here are the new URLs. So you can go look at the original deck at vitru.xyz/vibe. And you can look at this deck at vitru.xyz/vibe2. All right. So we'll keep anytime I make changes and do a presentation like this, I'll make sure that I highlight what has changed in it, so it's super easy for you to look at. So let me give you a quick peek at the calculator model we are working with, and then we can go back to answering some of your questions. And I see there's a ton of them there, but let me just give you a quick peek at that. So what we want to do with this model, and it is not complete yet, so these numbers will change, is to really give you a complete and holistic view of everything. So if you're a booster holder, super booster holder, nano holder, Vortex common, rare, ultra, epic, a VITRU bag holder, a VITRO holder, a validator, everything, we're going to enable you to put in all your inputs here. What are you holding, etc. And then based upon that, we're going to calculate all the income that is possible, really handling everything, rebases, various perks, and things like that. And again, this is not complete yet, but let me show you the inputs that go into this. So from a revenue standpoint, we have all the revenue channels that go into it. So you have NFT licenses, streaming subscription from consumers, streaming subscription for business, print licenses, collector credits, Vortex fixtures, Vortex assets, Vortex leases, and most important, I think, is wrap VITRU rebases. So all of that income we are essentially putting in. And then we have control variables. We have the VITRU price, the VITRO price. And one of the changes we are making is actually modeling it alongside other blockchains, where we're going to use blockchain transaction volume as a driver for VITRU price. So this is already going to change. The price growth numbers are going to go away in favor of a blockchain transaction volume. And you can already see that's coming up. These numbers are obviously wrong. Because this is still a work in progress, but you can see how the rebase numbers are correctly factored in there. And then we have fixed inputs, things that are not changing at all. So the number of boosters, the number of Vortex, what is the income that is actually already provided to boosters, which, as Mike was pointing out, many people tend to forget. You've got VITRUs, you've got perks, you've got collector credits. The art itself has value, and I put it a low value of $100, but it'll probably be worth a lot more. And then for validators, what are the coins they're getting, etc. So this calculator is going to give you in US dollars based upon all these inputs that you provide, it's going to help you make decisions. If I buy 10 Vortex, what is the impact on my revenue over 5 years, and things like that. So we are intent on giving you a very accurate model for that. All right, so now let's head back to this table. Keep that up there on the screen here, and let's take a look at some of these comments here. And there's a lot of them, so bear with me. I'm gonna um, go through them and pick a few. Well, there's a bunch of hi, so hi and welcome to everybody. I see a lot of people, a lot of friends here. um, I'm going to leave the opinionated ones out because I can only answer questions. Everyone has an opinion, I know that, and all I can do is stick to the facts. So all right, so Garfield has a question here. Let's start off with that. When you stake, do you still get rewards or just the vibe that you will initially get? All right, so we will clarify the staking models here, but they are going to be different staking programs. So there is the staking program where you simply believe in the appreciation of Vitru, and that's what you want. And so you have a stake rewards program where you essentially stake Vitru and you get back as rewards additional Vitru. There's an APR associated with it, and you get that back. So that's one staking program. This here is a Vibe staking program. So you basically stake your Vitru and you get Vibe, and that's it. So it's an either or. It's not a combination at all. I believe some people are bringing up early birds. Yes, there's a 5% early bird, and we actually are factoring that into the model. I will make a note to make sure that I highlight that in the next iteration of it. But thank you for that reminder. So SH says, will I be able to stake my till September stake Vitru for 5 years too? Yes. So in the last iteration, I basically said that Vibe would be closed as soon as Wrap Vitru begins trading. That is not the case anymore. It's going to remain open, and you can continue buying into it until it's fully allocated. So we have 100K allocation. So if that goes into September, then yeah. But if it doesn't, then no. So that's just how it is. You are getting a substantial reward either way. So I think it is. We obviously didn't know about Vibe when we created that program, so it is what it is right now. So this is a good question. When you stake Vitru for 2 to 5 years, do you get the rebase accrued at the end of the 2 to 5 years? So with the staking programs that we have currently, you sort of tack on the rebase at the end. I think with this model, it might be beneficial to stakers if we sort of have the rebase output available immediately. Mike, what are your thoughts on that? What you have the rebase as a one-time thing, or go along the way?
Well, I think you have to have it variable because there has to be a rebase, right? You can't prepay for a rebase. Not
prepay, but like when you unstake, you get your rebases also as a lump sum at the end, or you've staked, but you get your rebases along the way.
I don't think it matters either way, does it?
Well, it matters in the sense you have free Vitru available to you along the way.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so yeah, the Vitru. Yeah, it would be good to get the rebases as they come in the wallet rather than a lump sum.
Yeah,
because then you can choose to liquidate, you could choose to reinvest, you could choose to do whatever you want with them. I think that'd be more attractive than a lump sum at the end of the term.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I just remembered, and I forgot to add it to the spreadsheet. We did factor in the early birds, and it was an airdrop of 2 Vibe per early bird. Yeah, that was it, right?
Yeah. I was trying to remember that too.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get it into the spreadsheet in time. And honestly, all these my thing was at 10 a.m. Pacific. At 9:56, I got this whole deck done. All right, so been working all weekend on this. But yeah, So I'll document this in the next iteration of the spreadsheet of this deck. But the early birds are going to get an airdrop of 2 vibe each. All right, so I think everyone is going to complain and be unhappy with numbers in some form. But as I said, it's all about facts, and it's not about emotions. And so we are driven by facts. Um, some people seem allergic to creators getting rewards. They seem to miss the whole point of this blockchain. You are not going to get any of this revenue unless we can motivate a lot of creators to join this platform. All right. So I will just say that right now and end the discussion on creators. It's no longer it's off the table. Right. We have to grow this business, and the only way we are going to grow this is by getting creators in mass numbers on here. So let's not be short-sighted about that. I'm not seeing. So Rohan says, "I love the advice. I think V2 is much better structured." Thank you for that. Can we trade our collector credits for what? All right. So this is a really good question, Paul. And before the day is over, we will actually have an announcement regarding that. That was a suggestion that was floated by folks, and we'll do that. But we'll have to put a cap on that because, see, there is a finite capacity, right? There's only 350K sort of to be drawn from, and we could very easily just saturate and overwhelm that immediately. But we will make a provision for people to have to use a portion of their collector credits towards that. But that's actually a very good idea.
Yeah, it's great.
Let's see here. I'm just scrolling through. So the question is, can you please tell us if both our airdrop campaigns take Vitru and our invested Vitru will be accessed and staked in a new place for Vibe? And so how do we access each? Right. So there's going to be a new mint page for Vibe. It'll be in scope, and that's where you'll be able to manage it. And as I have said previously, we are upgrading the decks significantly. We're going to consolidate sort of all the DEX features, the staking, etc., all in one place. Right now, you can link off it, but it's not integrated, and we are working to integrate that. So basically, Vibe will be integrated with Scope, because Scope is essentially the centralized place for managing all your Vitruvio related assets, and so Vibe being an asset will be there. All right, so I see comments here about validators not getting more. We are running the blockchain. You need to do the math. So look at the spreadsheet, do the math. I've seen some models floating around. Unfortunately, they're not accurate. So we have an accurate version of it. You will see that validators are very handsomely rewarded in this model. So just based on that additional 10,000 Vibe, if you look at the long-term revenue projections on that, you will find that validators are very well rewarded. Again, I caution everyone to stop making emotional decisions and look at facts, and you will see that the numbers play out really well. Gus says you should be able to get the rebase as soon as it's available. Yeah, I think that's generally been the policy, where we try and orchestrate that. And now we have to make a few changes because we are hitting reset on the transaction volume, etc. So in line with that, we'll go and see what modifications are needed to be made to staking contracts, etc., to enable rebases to be pulled out dynamically on the fly.
Overall sentiment, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, it looks like that. I'm glad, because really, reading through all this input and analyzing it, etc., it's very conflicting. It's all over the place, etc. But I have to sort of get a sentiment analysis, and I'm not an AI, so I can't do that very well. So, I think a general question is, what about the Vitru that's already staked? And if people want to change to this model versus that model, I think that's an unanswered question right now, because it largely depends on if the staking contract is upgradable. I don't believe it is, but it might be configurable, and if it is, then there might be some provision for that. So it's an unknown. I'll have to research that. Didn't dive into that, but will since it's something people want, I'll definitely look at it. I mean, the whole way to operate here is propose something, get feedback, modify, and iterate, but not iterate infinitely. A couple of iterations is fine. So and let's see here. Got a lot of Noah has a comment there about alignment of interests. I won't post the comment here because I don't agree with it. Jason asks, will the players in the Vortex game still earn inside the game, or is that replaced through holding Vibe? Right. So Vibe is a program that is defined and described in its entirety to you here right now. If something's not part of it, it's not part of it. If something is part of it, it's described to you. So if it's not in here, it's out of scope. So players will be able to earn and do things inside of the game. That's variable, but that won't be Vibe related. All right. All right. And Godfrey has a question about the 7 boosters at once. So I believe that was handled with Vitru. Godfrey says that there was a 5% additional of the 2% rev share for that. I'll need to validate that, Godfrey. It may well be the case. I will need to go validate that. I'll make a note to do that. I want to make sure that we check all the boxes on this one. So
that was the early bird, and then the super early bird.
Yeah, that's the super early bird.
Yeah.
Okay, the super early bird were already airdropped sort of their Vitru, but if there was a rev share component of that, what will happen is we'll treat it the same way as early birds, is we'll have a Vibe airdrop. Gus says, what would be the minimal uptime acceptable when running nodes? Honestly, me personally, I would say 98%, but I think we can probably get away with 95%. Anything less than that, and it's pointless having a node, because if you do the math and you take your 720 hours, right, in 30 days, the more hours you're down, it means that the less the blockchain is secure. So we need to make sure the blockchain stays secure. All right. So Market SXO says, please address this possible. Okay. So this is about Vitro. I just want to make sure that that it's not there's nothing taken away from Vitro at all, and really we're just sticking with its position as a DEX token. And there were 2 primary benefits. One was DEX fees, which are back on the table, and the second is we are eventually going to have a launchpad, and for every launchpad there's going to be basically a token allocation from whatever that coin is that being launched that goes as fees. And so all Vitro holders will be eligible for that. That was the deal, and that's going to stay the deal. So really, it's just keeping it's about having a good separation of concerns. Everything here is around basically Vitro, and Vitro stays with the DEX. So there's nothing taken away. And actually, in the future, as we launch this, the launchpad, etc., there's much to be gained from Vitro. So it's just a question of time. It's going to take a little bit of time, couple of months, maybe 3, to get all of that up and running. All right. So I think that's it for most of it. I'm sure there's going to be lots of discussions in there, but I think the key thing is hopefully people feel that they've been heard. I think that's an important thing for me, and I think it's an important thing for the culture of of our community. Is you don't do things by fiat. You kind of do it by consensus, but that doesn't mean infinite sort of consensus. It means a couple of iterations of feedback. Get it? And as I've always maintained, when you come away from negotiations and everyone is slightly unhappy, you've done well, so that's yeah, so that's kind of the philosophy here. So expect to see this the few tweaks that didn't make it in here. So the airdrop for the early birds and all of that, I will make sure I add that here. But we're going to focus now on the calculator and make that really really good. Our early simulations with the calculator are really good in projecting out and helping you project out how you can make a decision. So with these changes, I think we have a stronger program with Vibe, one that's more aligned. And really, like, there's a lot of detail here. But at the end of the day, when this is all done and you have your Vibe, it's very easy. There is revenue share that's going to come into a Vibe contract, and you divide that by 1 million, and that's yours. Depending on how many Vibe tokens you hold, you do that, and it becomes really really simple. So you don't have to do all this 2% of 30%. I mean 30% of 2%, etc., which kind of gets a little bit complicated. All right, so Mike, let's switch gears a little bit here and talk a little bit about the community liaison role. First of all, I just want to point out that you had the insight to approach me about it, or the need for it in the community. So thank you for that. Let's talk about it. How do you see that role shaping up?
So Nick and I talked a couple of months ago, and there seemed to be a really big disconnect between the community and leadership. And there was a lot of misinformation, disinformation throughout Discord. You have the community really trying to fill in the gap. But the problem is there weren't a lot of answers that the community had in terms of really hard questions. In terms of like an FAQ section, tutorials, onboarding, roadmap updates, community concerns, it's impossible for leadership, for Nick, to kind of go through Discord on every question and kind of deal with that. So I pitched him a couple of months ago the idea of having a dedicated contact. I didn't care if it was me or anybody else, but just somebody that could be an extension of Nick, who can really start organizing the communication and fixing some of those core issues so that we have accurate information. We have a centralized way of delivering that information. That information is actively updated. So it's not just a GitHub or a document, but it's actively being managed. And if you look at the history of Vitruvio, things have changed quite a bit as we've made progress, as we've made enhancements to the blockchain. It's important that we have really accurate information and that information gets communicated clearly. So we talked about this role that somebody could fill in that gap between the community and Nick, kind of like a PR person or some sort of community manager, community liaison, who could really start to organize that information and get it out. Obviously, we're not trying to manage all the DMs, and that's not an effective way of really managing all of that information, because you have, X amount of active users and everybody's on at different times. And I certainly, or Nick or anybody else, or even the mods, can't be on all the time answering every single question 10, 20, 100 different times. So we came about the idea of having a centralized hub for the information. We're looking at different AI chatbots. We're looking at Discord enhancements to different sections. We're looking at the ecosystem as a whole. But we really do want to have it delineated between creators and OGs or investors, having some of these resources that are all kind of laid out. Obviously, the FAQ section, community concerns, a lot of people have concerns that they just want addressed. And sometimes Nick doesn't even see those messages because he might have 2,000 DMs, and to try to go through that, nothing would ever get done. So that's kind of the idea, is to kind of bridge that gap, be an extension of Nick. Nick and I plan to meet on periodically through the week, just to kind of hit the most critical questions that are being asked, looking at new ideas, looking at enhancements. We're also going to form kind of like not really a formal Senate, but kind of an informal Senate of top holders where we can really put our heads together. And it's not necessarily top holders, but it's those that really do want to contribute. And that way we can bounce some ideas off each other and then provide that information to Nick so that he's better, I guess, has a pulse of what the community wants and what's possible based on the math and the numbers. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell.
Yeah, and it is sorely needed, and I appreciate that you're going to help us improve communication, because there is a lot of information already flowing, and it's going to increase. It's going to increase drastically as some of these programs come to fruition, etc. So I'm very glad to have you help with that, and also with all your assistance so far. All right, folks. So I think that is it. We're going to get back to work and get this calculator done. So get it in your hands. And like I said, this is V1 of the calculator. Immediately turn around and build that right into scope. So you'll be able to tinker with it without a spreadsheet and all that kind of stuff. It's going to take a little bit of time, a couple of days, maybe a little more than that. I always say a couple of days, but it's actually, I forget that I have 10,000 other things on my plate to do too. So anyway, I hope you view these developments as positive. We are really trying to address everyone's concerns, but I totally understand if you're left saying, "Hey, my concern was not addressed." Can't make everyone happy, but trying to make everyone as satisfied as possible in terms of fairness. Fairness is important here, and like I said, with the calculator. You'll be able to plug in your numbers and see the math and see that it holds up quite well. And I'm really excited that the community is stepping up on Vortex. I was looking at the mints there. That's really moving very fast. And once we add on Warpcast, I believe that that will move even faster, because that's like a whole lot of new degens coming into our ecosystem. So really excited about that. And as a change for my background, I've usually had like artworks or superheroes or whatever, but I decided I'm going to put my own photos now. So these are what you're seeing there is my own photos from various travels, etc. And I'll keep that a few times. And when people tell me they're sick of it, I'll get rid of it and switch to something else. But ultimately, I want to have my Vitru stream. That's kind of where we're headed, and we'll get there. But anyway, guys, we're gonna get back to work. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate all your input. Keep it coming, and we'll consider it all. And probably not another live today, but we'll release. I think we can do a soft release of the calculator today, because I still want to get input from everybody, and then maybe do a final Vibe live perhaps tomorrow. And a final calculator kind of release and say, okay, this is it, folks. This is how it is. And I want to fast track the implementation of Vibe because we are fast tracking adding multi artworks and variable pricing into Studio for artists. So this was actually the driver for Vibe, because fees are going to start coming in right away. And so I need to make sure the contracts are in place, etc. So as those fees come in, you are able to claim, however small that might be. Initially, it's going to be small because we don't have enough volume, but that's going to grow. And that's it. So thanks, everyone. Have a happy, good Monday. I'm out. I'll be on here again tomorrow. We're also resuming airdrops tomorrow. I committed to publishing a schedule for that today, and I will do that. So we'll resume that tomorrow. That's the Vortex airdrop. And don't forget, if you're a creator, we have a creator segment on there. So this is a fun and exciting way to get a small allocation of Vortex that we are taking airdrop to you. All right. So with that, we're out. Thank you, Mike. Have a good day, and I'll chat with you again. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.